Hi, everyone. Thank you all for coming. My name is Amy Ryan, and I'm going to moderate some questions with the most incredible company of actors and directors that are here tonight. And it is my pleasure to introduce them to you. Elle Fanning.
I watch your step here.
Inga Ibsdotter Lilleaas.
Watch your step here.
Stellan Skarsgård. And my pal Joachim Trier. Wow. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to imagine that the experience that I had when I first saw this film at a screening about a month ago. And then I had the luxury of having lunch with everyone here. For me, it was a comfort to see them. As much as I am smart enough to know that they are actors and a director in a film, I felt a great comfort that this family was still together. And I'm just going to imagine you guys feel the same. But I just want to start. Joachim, the script is obviously, it's so well written, and so each character is so dynamic and so rich, including the house. And if it's okay, I'd like to start with the house, which is human, which seems to hold generational trauma. Can you speak to that theme, and what was the inspiration, and how you brought this house to life?
Thank you, Amy. Can you hear me? Is it okay, the sound? Up? Yeah, I think someone else has to turn. I'll speak with a louder voice. Before I answer your question, Amy, thank you so much for doing this with us. Full disclosure, on the top of my list when coming to America to want to work with actors, I had Amy Ryan, and she accepted to work with me on a film we did almost 10 years ago called Louder Than Bombs. And I learned so much from you, and you're just a magnificent actor. So thank you for doing this with us tonight. So the house came into the story quite late. We knew we wanted to do a story about family, and we started out making it about two sisters. And the curious thing that many of us who have siblings experience, that we have such different stories of who we are, and that we are continually through life maybe renegotiating the narrative that we need to have about who we are as a family, who were our parents, and all that. But we were also cautious of making what we in Norway call a chamber drama. Do you have that word here? The idea that you make a film that's very tiny and you just sit in a room all the time and everything is about dialogue and talking. I wanted to try to do something which was a bit more philosophical about how, trauma transfers from one generation to the next, which now I'm 51. I just had kids late in life. And I'm a parent, so I'm asking myself new questions about who were my parents as kids and what did they transfer to me. And my grandparents, particularly my grandfather during the Second World War, was in captivity during the Nazi occupation of Norway. And it affected him very much. And he became a filmmaker after the war, first a jazz musician and then a filmmaker. And he because there wasn't an infrastructure in Norway at the time for filmmakers, he only made 2 films in his whole life. But I know he made art and music because he was trying to find a way to live through his trauma. And I think in direct and indirect ways that have affected my family and me. And when you're a kid, you ask yourself these questions about the past and it seems so far away. So when you're 10 and someone talks about the Second World War in the 80s, in my case, you think, oh, that's, it's like the Middle Ages or something. But as I'm now 51, I realize how short ago that was. And so I thought the house would give an opportunity to talk about a bigger perspective on time in this family story. and to make it more philosophical, because the house has seen the 20th century and witnessed how short a human life is.
Thank you for that. Stellan, well, first, congratulations on your Golden Globe win. And I'm really glad, thank you for bringing, just saying it out loud, that films deserve to be seen in the theater. And I hope this question doesn't embarrass you, but you know, you're a legendary actor. You're playing a legendary film director. Where do you let that go, or where do you bring those two characters together, yourself and Gustav, or do you just throw that all away when you approach a role like this?
Yeah, hello? Can you hear me? Okay, good. I don't think about myself when I do it. I thought that it was totally remote from myself. I thought I invented that character until my son told me it's you. I didn't like it. But I understand it, because, I mean, I have 8 kids, and you are sometimes a good father, you're sometimes a bad father, and you're never a really loved and perfect father, because you can't be. You're flawed. And they also have different demands on you. Some need a lot of attention. Some kids need no attention, and they're all different. So you're always failing. So that I understood.
Oh, gosh. Elle, I think of this scene so much as like, I kind of put on my actor hat, and I wanted to ask you this for such a long time since I saw the film. There's the scene in which you read the monologue in Gustav's film. You have this incredible feat where you're so moving, you're so beautiful, and you're so great in this moment, and yet you can only take it so far. So you can pass the baton to Renata later on for her to read it. So how did you even begin that? Did you guys throw a bunch of things, a bunch of takes, and see what happens, or how did you score that if it were a piece of music?
Oh man, that is really nice to hear from you, because I admire you very much. I always have. So thank you for saying that. That's, as you know, when actors read a script, there's always kind of the scene that makes you nervous, or the daunting scene that you're most anxious for. And I think because Renata then says the monologue later on, and we're kind of mirroring in our 2 characters, even though we only share that one scene, we are dancing around each other or are aware of each other in this way. And it's not necessarily in a jealous way, in that cliched way. So I love the way that was written. But I think the monologue scene for Rachel represents a lot, because there's a lot riding on it, because until then, I think audiences, or even when I was reading the script, I was like, how is she gonna be written? How is this character gonna pan out? Because I think she could have easily slipped into an American trope of the silly star who, there's a very comedic way to read that scene as well. But Joachim and I talked about how we wanted it to be very honest, and we wanted to show that Rachel was a very talented actress, but I think when we meet her for the first time, she doesn't believe in the talent herself, because she hasn't quite had that opportunity. And so if I was, Elle reading that monologue for a movie for real, I wouldn't have read it the way that she did. But it was very particular, because it has to be good, but almost like she's surprising herself in the moment. Because I think as an actor, I've had those moments where you're reading a text and you're like getting emotional, and you're surprised that you're getting emotional, and you're in front of director, and so you're trying to kind of show that off, or you're excited that you're crying and really trying to push it out. So I was aware that that's how Rachel would be feeling. I mean, we did the scene quite a lot, actually. It was I felt like I kind of had all the time in the world to experiment with it. I feel like you used like the first or second take, but I could be wrong. I don't know. Sometimes I try to see.
It's a mixture. mixture. I remember.
Is it a mixture?
Yeah, no, but you were very good, and you kind of gave me, how do you say in English, scales or gradients of variations on it. Some were more kind of crafty, and some were more genuinely vulnerable. And maybe I stayed away from some of the latter because we saved. That the sophistication of what you do is that towards the end of the film, you're showing a very different way of weeping and being a completely different kind of sorrowful moment in the film,
Yeah.
you know? And I think the distinction between them, you play very well.
Thank you. Yeah, and Renata's so, I mean, when she reads it, it represents something so much more, and she's trying to hold all that emotion in, and so, and it's just so true when she does it. So it was, but I read mine first. I know that. I remember, you know, she came to set. We didn't have a scene that day, but she was like, "I heard you did the monologue." I'm like, "Yeah," and I'm like, "You're up next." So.
Oh, it was beautiful. It was
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah. Inga, congratulations on the National Board of Review Award.
Thank you.
It was so lovely to see you last night there, and you know, as we're very quickly and slowly getting to know each other, there was this moment as you accepted the award. It was so nice to see you have such a great sense of humor after just, you know, I'm picturing Agnes and the weight of the world on your shoulder and the burden of keeping this family together and finding where the love is in sync and out of sync. And so it was just nice to see this side of you, and I'm so happy for you. But I wanted to ask specifically, I mean, well, I take that back. I don't know where to start really with this question. I still can't get over that you and Renata don't share DNA. I mean, it's really spectacular, the chemistry between you both. And I read that you performed in a play many years ago, but you really only got reacquainted for Sentimental Value. Is that correct? So can you talk about or share some insight of the connection between you both, how you navigated through that?
Yeah, we worked together, I think, 10 years ago when we first came out of school in like a children's play for children, summer theater in a tent in the park where she's from, the city where she's from. Very silly, very like crazy, free theater. So it's kind of a childlike experience. And that was, for me, it was nice to have that. It was nice to have that experience with her and to have seen her that way. To sort of have as a foundation to build on this grown-up sort of relationship. And we had rehearsals with Joachim. We went through all the scenes, but we never sort of cemented anything or decided on things. It was sort of just testing things out, just talking about their relationship. So we didn't really do anything in particular. It just sort of grew out of that, I think. And when we started shooting, it felt very natural and very effortless, that sort of bond that they have. We both have sisters. We know what siblings are in our lives, and we know what that love feels like. And I think we like to work in the same way, and we like to sort of be attentive to the other actor, which is such a joy as an actor. And all of these actors are like that. It's such a joy to work with actors who actually listen to you and who actually take it in and then act, and not like the way they decided they wanted it to look like, you know?
Stellan, do you recall when we had lunch, I asked a little bit about your rehearsal process with the film, and you said, well, actors are really good at dropping into intimacy quickly, and that sometimes rehearsal is just not needed. Did you experience that with, like, more so with the family scenes, or, you know, or can you speak more to that? Like, what does that mean? Or,
well, I mean, we are professionally trained to be intimate with strangers, and it's a fantastic thing. And even the whole film team works like that. The whole film team, you become very close and very intimate in a day. and then you're very close for 6 weeks, and then whoop, he's gone. And it's a painful process, but it I have sort of a reverse here, because I immediately felt close to my daughters here, and I shouldn't. so I played that I was remote to them, but I could. But with Elle, it was contrary, because with Elle I should have a close relationship. So that was easy. And she's an old child actor as well, like me.
Exactly.
So we.
Yeah, so both as child actors, you both avoided jazz hands in your careers. I'm very proud of you.
Maybe, yeah, thank you.
Joachim, when you work with Eskil, do some of these themes come up in other films that maybe they have no place, you know, maybe in Worst Person in the World, and you're like, are you conscious, like maybe hold that for the next one, or it's the seed for the next film? Like, what is the process working with a longtime collaborator?
Thank you for asking. So just to clarify, Eskil Vogt is the co-writer of all the 6 features I've directed. He's a dear friend. He and I sit and try to figure it out together. And we always come into the room with certain ideas. In this case, the family dynamic. We knew we wanted to work with Renata, and very quickly we knew we wanted to work with Stellan, because we had a very, very challenging father character, and he's a genius as an actor. So I was very glad he joined us. No, how does that work? I wrote this note, pardon me for being a bit pretentious, but when we realized what this film was going to be, I also know it's going to take a lot out of us, because it's in the way that I also described earlier, quite a personal thing thematically to get into. And as actors, you know how it is to carry something for a while. It can be joyous and cathartic, but it can also be kind of heavy to live in something that deals with perhaps grief and stuff, and you try to work your way out of it with being with wonderful people, and you also try to develop a sense of humor. And I hope the film has joyous beats and moments. You know, I want it to be funny as well, because I think life is that way. That's how we survive. So when we sit in the writing room, one day we realized this was going to be it, and I remember taking a note myself, being something along the lines of, it's not what I hoped to make, but it's what I had to tell. It really felt like one of those stories. It's something that occurred, and it was like, I suddenly realized, coming from a film family and with what I was going through with having children, that this is it. And it's, then you follow it. And the characters drive it. And the character, just to speak of that for a moment, The Worst Person in the World, if anyone has seen it, it's Renate Reinsve that plays the lead, but it's a very different character, even though it's the same actor. To her compliment, I think she portrays two variations of something that is deeply her, but also deeply a character that's not her in both cases.
Yeah. And I'm not sure when the seed of the idea of sentimental value came to play, but were your children born at the time, or did they arrive in your life, and did it shift?
Yeah, I had one daughter, and we wrote the script, and it was about two sisters 3 years apart, and I realized the moment we finished the first draft that my wife was pregnant. And I had another daughter with exactly 3 years apart while just getting into this film. So I know now that 20 years from now, everyone's going to ask my daughter whether this was an apology for being a terrible absent father. So it's my mission not to be Gustav Borg in relation to them.
This film, it resonates. Is it the family theme, or is it? But it seems to resonate with audiences of all ages, which is just wonderful.
It's surprising. We have in
Yeah.
Norway teenagers and people in their 80s embracing this film, and now it's doing okay in the US as well, it seems, in different age groups. So, But to give a bit of a compliment to American cinema for a moment, I also think that I'm very inspired by a type of film that I grew up watching that was relevant to my life. I'm sure many of you remember Kramer versus Kramer, for example. When everyone's parents got the divorce, that was comforting and gave a voice that we could mirror ourselves in, about how complicated yet human it is when people, it doesn't work out always, you know? And I think something like Ordinary People, now to remember the wonderful Robert Redford that we were in cinematic history now lost, it's a sad thing. And he made a wonderful humanist story, and so many other films that and there are still great human films being made in America, but it used to be a trend. It used to be that human stories were made with great performances, great character-driven narratives. You know, it used to be a US thing, and it's a little bit less so. But I feel that, you know, this is what we're trying here, in a way.
Well, that's what I think is so extraordinary about this film as well, is that it is breaking through, and not to, you know, put down other films that might be doing great box office, but that the story of the human connection or misconnection, misdirect, still, we're all still human if it's resonating with us, and that is a nice feeling. You're so comfortable with pause in the film and dead air, allowing moments to breathe, be uncertain, and each of you do it so brilliantly. And I wonder, is that on the page? Is that letting the cameras roll before you say cut? You know, like, how do you have the confidence? Surely these group of actors, they're going to give it to you, but that you know to just be in the silence.
I think it's, if you think like this, and I know in a way you know the answer because you're like that. You're more interested in behavior.
That's why I asked. No.
No, but as an actor, I know that you're more interested in conditioning and emotion and a behavioral thing in a scene, being, rather than feeling that you have to tell the story through dialogue. And these actors as well, I feel you guys really, you knew and were invited by me to get rid of a lot of dialogue when it wasn't needed. And it's the biggest joy. As an example, you write a lot of exposition to convey to the group that you're working with, you know, this is what we're doing. And it's slightly more novelistic or theatrical in the theater sense. It is a little bit more exposition in the screenplay. But suddenly we're at the funeral scene early in the film, and you see how Inga, Renate, and Stellan are behaving with each other in silences and the awkwardness. And we could throw out half the dialogue in that scene almost, you know? And Elle's exploration and your kind of slight detectiveness about like observing and thinking is more exciting than you having to explain what's going on with the character, because we get it, because you're a good actor. You know? So we're always trying to get to the show don't tell part of every scene.
Yeah, it's done expertly, beautifully, and it allows for these moments of just like the crinkle, where this, you know, you hand the script over to Renate and it's in a crinkle bag, like your life's work, you know, or your drool on the couch gets to, you know.
Now that's good acting.
It's just, but it allows us to live in those moments as well, and it doesn't feel indulgent. It just feels human, and it's just beautiful work. But thank you. So thank you all for coming out to support this incredible film.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.